welcome to the second perspective. Today we're going to be talking about The Amazing Spider-Man 2, a 2012 release directed by Marc, Webb, and starring Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. This is the second film in the Spider-Man remake series, which follows on from the original trilogy by Sam Raimi, which I won't speak about a great deal today. I think we've all had enough pain. Now dig on this. But unlike the disaster that was Spider-Man 3, this film's actually pretty good. In fact, I'm going to get up on my high horse here and suggest it's the best Spider-Man rendition so far. You know, Andrew Garfield does a good job. He brings a lot of personality to the character.
No problem with your gun? Let me help you out with that.
But he gets rid of that kind of New York sassy jerk attitude that he brought into the first film, which is a great improvement.
I'm a cop. Cop in a skin-tight red and blue suit. You know, you're...
I don't know about you, but I thought that the sass was just a little bit over the top in that last film, but the balance is much better here. Emma Stone also does a great job as the female lead. You know, when you compare her against Kirsten Dunst, she's more independent, she's stronger, she's smarter, and as well as that, she actually helps Spider-Man, which is a wonderful change.
Who's that guy?
It was an accident in the genomics lab, and they're covering it up.
That sounds cool.
Plus, she can act.
How'd you like it?
It felt a little bit rushed.
I know.
And speaking of actors, you've got some really big guns on the set of this film. You've got Jamie Foxx, you've got Sally Field, even Paul Giamatti makes an appearance. And he's pretty entertaining, though I wouldn't be rolling out the red carpet for his Russian accent.
You fight me! You fight me now!
The fact is, when you look at this film from the casting point of view, you get pretty excited about it. There's some great names in there, and I'm glad to say no one does a particularly bad performance, which is a great improvement from the last trilogy, where there were characters that you just couldn't stand to watch.
No.
The horror. But despite all of its positive points, this still isn't a great film. Largely because it makes the same mistake that every superhero's made for the last 10 years. It's too overcomplicated. You would have thought after Spider-Man 3, when Sam Raimi tried to put 3 different villains into the film, one coming in the last 10 minutes, that people wouldn't make that mistake again. It should be written down somewhere. But that's exactly what Marc Webb did, and it's such a shame because he wasted the opportunity to build some great characterization in some of these villains. I mean, Jamie Foxx as Electro was an interesting choice, but he thought about it. He had mannerisms, he had backstory, he had motivations, and there was great potential for a really interesting and complex villain here. The problem was that with so much stuff going on, he got about as much screen time as Aunt May.
It gives me a little extra in the cookie jar.
But even Sally Field, who's won 2 Oscars, gets pushed off of the screen by Peter Parker's dead father in a weird James Bond-esque kind of conspiracy theory mission that honestly, I didn't give a rat's about.
Both know that's not an option, Dr. Parker.
Look, when I was young, Spider-Man was Nicholas Hammond. And I remember in the original film, he was bitten by a dodgy looking orange radioactive spider, and 20 minutes later, you were seeing this. The fact of the matter is, we didn't care why he was Spider-Man, what his motivations were, where the spider came from, how many spies were behind the organisation. He was a guy who had cool powers and we just wanted to watch him use them. I mean, I don't get why every origin story needs its own origin story. It's just so over-complex. I mean, come on, Spider-Man. If your dad wasn't some kind of secret spy working behind the scenes, would you still have stopped Electro? Does it really influence the basic motivation of stopping someone who's electrifying the city? If you ask me, the movie could have been a lot better if it was just Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, and Jamie Foxx. You've got your hero, your love interest, and your villain. There's enough there to build a good film. Everything else could go. I mean, I can understand Marc Webb's fear in trying to find a more complicated villain. I mean, The Amazing Spider-Man 1 had a bad storyline when it came to that. It was very slow and monotonous. But that's only because the villain was the Lizard. And the Lizard isn't an interesting villain. It's like making films about the Hulk. It's not an interesting enough premise to build a plot around. Not to mention Kirk Connor's bizarre plan about turning everyone into a lizard in order to break down equality.
This is no longer about curing ills. This is about finding perfection.
You're going to sit next to someone and say, oh, you know, I'm not really worried about how much I'm getting paid anymore because I'm a lizard. What, you don't care about job inequity anymore because you're a lizard? Hey, I got bigger problems to deal with right now. I'm a lizard. Who writes this stuff? I mean, Jamie Foxx's villain was better thought out than this. He had a plan. He had a motivation. He wanted more power so he could get more attention. You can make a movie out of that. You can't make a movie out of a guy who periodically turns into a lizard when he doesn't want to.
Poor Peter Parker.
If they'd only focused on developing one villain and making him seem like an actual threat and getting rid of all of the crap, then this could have been a really great movie. Sadly, that is not what The Amazing Spider-Man 2 offers. While there's some great action scenes, some witty banter, some suspense moments, and some pretty good CGI, at the end of the day, this film feels more like an emotional vacation. You'll feel hopeful with Andrew Garfield. You'll feel friendly with Emma Stone. You'll feel pumped up with Electro. You'll feel sidetracked by Green Goblin. You'll feel bored by Aunt May. You'll feel confused by Cameron Scott. And you'll ultimately be left disappointed by the 5 seconds of Rhino that they tack on at the end.